Hey everybody, and welcome to the Green Witch Homestead. So I am not on the homestead today, as you can see. We are out actually foraging for some late summer medicinal plants. And I am standing right now in a patch of one of my favorite plants that is the most underappreciated plant in the medicinal category. And that is this lovely beauty right here, which some of you may know, and to those that don't, this plant is called Jewlweed. It's gotten that name because of these pretty little jewel orange flowers that it grows in late summer. You will usually find jewelweed growing along creek beds or roadsides. Basically anywhere that you find poison ivy, you're sure to find jewelweed because Mother Nature likes to put her cures right beside her ailments. And jewelweed is a natural cure for poison ivy. Now, saying the word cure is a little misleading because it doesn't actually cure the poison ivy rash. It can help to neutralize the poison ivy oils. So if you touch poison ivy and you know you've touched it right away, you can apply jewelweed to it and that will help prevent you from getting the rash. But if you didn't know that you touched a poison ivy and you get rash on your arm and it's itchy and burny the next day, the jewelweed will still help. It won't make the rash go away, but it'll make the itching stop, which will help you from spreading the rash and make it cure a little bit faster. Jewelweed is a really awesome plant, and it is a native here in Missouri, and it is abundant. There are two ways to use the plant, and the most common and well-known is to just take some of the fresh plant and to crush it up in your hand, maybe add a little bit of water until you get all of that nice juice on the inside out, and then apply it directly to your rash or burn. Jewelweed is a hollow stemmed plant and it's got kind of a mucusy liquid inside, very similar to aloe, just not quite as juicy. And that mucus is what you want. That's what's going to neutralize your poison ivy. It's also very easy to identify this plant once you've seen it a couple times. This time of year, it's unmistakable because of those bright orange little flowers. But earlier in the season, if you want to harvest it, you can still find it. You just got to look for key factors in the plant. So the stem of a jewelweed plant is mildly translucent. You can see light through it, and it's going to have those nodules, those bumps where the leaf nodes are. If it doesn't have those nodules, it's probably not a jewelweed. It's also a hollow stem. So when you pick it, if it's not hollow like that, it's probably not jewelweed. That stem is hollow, but it's not empty. That's where that mucusy liquid is going to be. So that's actually what you want when you're harvesting the plant. Another way of identifying this plant, and some of you may not know it as jewelweed. In fact, I grew up with this plant not knowing what it was and what it did. Where I grew up, we called it by another name, and some of you may know it by this name, and we called it touch-me-not. The reason we called it touch-me-not is because of the seed pods, which jewelweed is still to this day one of my favorite plants to introduce to young foragers, as well as just to play around with myself, again, because of these seed pods. Jewelweed has a very distinctive seed pod, and they explode upon contact, sending their seeds several feet away so that they can procreate without crowding each other out. So here is a jewelweed seed pod. I don't know, I'm going to see if I can get this one to pop. It's not the easiest thing to do on camera. They're really fast, but with just the slightest, ooh! So here's another one, boom! We used to spend hours doing this as kids. We didn't know what it was for. We didn't know the uses of it, but it grew everywhere. And we spent a lot of time out hiking in the woods. And our favorite activity was to climb into the jewelweed and pop the seeds. So I'm actually pretty sure that the reason I never got poison ivy as a kid was because that I was crawling around in the jewelweed plant just as much as I was crawling around in the poison ivy. I'm going to go ahead and collect a bunch from this batch. I've also got a few that I pulled up by the roots that we're going to take home and try and get propagated around our pond area. Can grow it from seed as well, but it's a little difficult. The seeds are very, very hard skinned and they need to be stratified. You can plant them in the early fall and let them overwinter to get best germination rate out of them. But I've had better success by just transplanting the plants. So we're going to go ahead and harvest a bunch of these guys and then take them home, and I'm going to show you what I do to process them and use them for making salves and medicine for us to use for curing burns and rashes. Normally, I harvest jewelweed a little bit earlier when the plant is not quite as tough as it is when it's flowering. I do recommend bringing some scissors or clippers so that you can break them off. But basically, you just take the top half of the plant and collect it up, and chop it into smaller pieces later. So I also happened across some elderberries here on the side of the road. Now we've already harvested quite a lot of elderberries for the season, so I'm just gonna leave these for the birds. Also, as you can see, they're kind of covered in road dust, so I wouldn't pick these. But if you're looking, this is what an elderberry berry looks like. That's the plant. And that's kind of what you're gonna see on the side of the road. So that's an elderberry right there. I just also wanted to show you that jewelweed is not just orange flowers. So there's another variety of jewelweed here. They kind of look like a wild snapdragon. So before we take these home, I'm gonna come down here to our little slab crossing where we got flowing water with our creek and get them rinsed off a little bit just to get any of the road dust and bugs off of them before I put them in the car. It is the next day and we are back home. And the reason that it is a day is because I'm going to be making them into a salve for long-term storage. So I'm going to be putting the fresh plant into a carrier oil for emulsification. And you don't want to do that with a extremely fresh plant because it has a lot of water content in it and you're going to have rancid oil if you go that route. So basically I brought my jewelweed home yesterday from the creek and we've let it dry out just a little bit, kind of wilt a little bit and get some of that excess moisture out. It's not completely dry, but it is wilted down and got a lot of that moisture out. And I'm just going to break it up and stuff it into these jars. Once you have your jars as stuffed as you can get them and you really want to stuff it in there, you're just going to go ahead and fill them up with oil so that the plant is covered. You can put a rock or a weight or something to keep these plants down underneath the oil while they process. I have these beautiful painted rocks that are sealed, and that's what I use in these because this is not food. This is not something you're going to eat, so it's not a big worry, but I like using these. And then you pop your lid on just to keep the bugs out. And then on a nice warm day like today, we're going to stick them outside in the sun for 24 hours, and then we're going to store them on a shelf for anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. Now, the jewelweed salve is not just good for poison ivy, that's its most common use. It is good for any type of itchy rash, poison oak, poison sumac, mosquito bites. It will take away the itch and the burn from most things like that. There are a few places that you can source the jewelweed plant online if you don't have access to harvesting it in your area. I will find them and put some links below. If you do wind up purchasing your jewelweed to make your salves out of and you don't have a warm sunny day to put it outside, that's fine. Just sit it in a windowsill. You want to give it at least a little bit of direct sun before you put it on the shelf. It just kind of helps it get everything started. So I just put mine out here on my vegetable rack where I have a lot of my tomatoes that are finishing their ripening. Aren't these just gorgeous? I love these tomatoes. They taste really good. They're very, very mellow, not too acidic. And then I've got these beautiful orange ones, and then of course my classic red. If you're curious as to why I have tomatoes sitting on the rack like that, we get a lot of rain this time of year when the last bit of my tomatoes are ripening, and I can't control their moisture intake. So what'll happen with tomatoes if they take too much moisture in at once, they'll split. And to prevent that from happening, when the tomatoes start to ripen on the vine, once they're starting to turn color, I will pick them and I will set them out on the sunny shelf here to finish ripening, where I don't have to worry about them taking up more moisture and cracking. I will be doing a video soon about making some amazing fire roasted salsa. I got the recipe from Jessica Soward. When I tell you it has changed my life with how I make salsa, I'm not lying. Now, as for the jewelweed, we are pretty much done at this point. I don't have any pre-soaked, so I can't show you the next steps where we would take it and make it into the salves. But basically, 3 to 6 weeks from now, you're going to take that oil, you're going to strain the plant matter out of it. At that point in time, it's not really worth anything other than compost. That's where mine goes. And you're going to take that oil and then you can make your salves. You can add other things to that oil. I like to add a little bit of orange mica coloring so that I can distinguish this as my jewelweed salve. And then you add your beeswax and pour it into your tins and you're good to go. I have jewelweed salve that has been stored on the shelf for up to 5 years before it starts to just kind of turn. The olive oil beeswax salves are shelf stable but not forever. You can pour it into a vacuum seal bag and freeze it, and that's going to make it last longer, and then just heat that bag up to melt your oils and salves again and pour them into your tins later. That's why I like to do the salves. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. I hope you learned something. Let me know down in the comments if you've ever used jewelweed before, or if you played with the seeds as a kid like I did and didn't know what the plant was for. If you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up and leave a comment. It helps with the algorithm to get us out there. If you have any questions or any ideas of what types of videos you'd like me to focus on, please let me know down below. I've got the farm, we've got the chickens, we got a lot of the medicinals, and this time of year we're going to be doing a lot of foraging videos because it is that time where Mother Nature is putting out her bounty, getting ready to fatten everything up for winter. Have a great day, guys. Remember to get out there and get your hands dirty.